Okay, we're good. Hi, everybody, whoever's watching
Well,
this.
yes, welcome. Welcome to our first interview with Jen and I and our guest,
Pete Cimino, who's a good friend. Pete, I don't want to take anything away from your introduction, so we'll have you introduce yourself, but we just want to say thank you for being here. And Pete has been a friend, a yogi, an amazing member of our community, a local entrepreneur, and we're really thrilled to have some of his time today to talk with us. So Pete, is there anything that you'd like to say to get started that you would love people to know about your background?
Just hello, and it's nice to see you guys today.
Yes.
I'm happy to be on here. I'm honored. I appreciate the privilege, and if you guys want, I can just, I guess, give you a brief background of how I got here.
Yeah,
that would be
we'd
great.
love to start there. Yeah, where you grew up and just a little bit about what you got you to today.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Western New York, in Kenmore, actually, just a stone's throw away from Buffalo, and I went to Chem West High School, home of the Blue Devils, and ended up going to Canisius College to study math, and then ended up turning that into taking a few extra classes to obtain my teaching certificate, and sort of in that senior year, doing my student teaching, went through a lot of personal change, a lot of things coming up that made me question why I was doing what I was doing. Was I making these decisions for myself? Was I doing them because they were the right thing to do? Was I on that path because my parents or my girlfriend thought that that was the path? And during that period of extreme questioning, I realized that I probably wasn't on the path that I thought I would go down.
Now, Pete, real quick, let's stop there for a second. Did you ask for other people's advice during that time, or was this something that you sorted out on your own when you were in these questions?
That's actually a great question, Steve. And I wish I would approach my current advice taking from my 21-year-old self, because I actually didn't ask for advice during that time. And truthfully, I didn't really have anyone to turn to that I think would help me answer such a big question. But I think you got to follow your intuition, and I forget what the saying is, but you have all that you need, and you will realize that at some point. So my moral compass, my internal compass was working, and it told me that there was something else out there for me, and I started reading. I started reading like a madman. Reading was never a priority to me. It was just about how do I get through to get the A on the test, or it was never out of pleasure or to seek some sort of greater understanding or go on some kind of exploration. So anyway, during that time, I discovered that there was just other ways to make money that I had not been taught or was unaware of. I come from a very blue collar family. My father is an Italian immigrant. Barely speaks English still to this day, and was always just a hard laborer. And the values that I learned were around hard work and ethic. And for him, the American dream was sending his kids to college. So I went and did that. And like I said, just being on a path that was sort of suggested by my parents and going by the book, getting good grades, getting a great job, you get the benefits, you get the pension, you get all that, and you have a family with a white picket fence and sail off into the sunset. So I think for them, when I was making the change, it was probably hard to stomach. So it really didn't get to the point where I broke away from teaching until almost 5 years in. So
Pete, you did go into teaching after you graduated.
Yeah, I ended up completing the degree and all that. I mean, I was 95% of the way through it and just had to finish my student teaching, and I did that. But that first summer I was coaching, and I ended up getting hired right away, which was, in hindsight, a blessing. I was coaching football and baseball. I was coaching football at Canisius High School at the time. Yeah. And I did some of my student teaching there as well, and they offered me a job, and it was really great. It was a shoe-in opportunity, and I honestly think, looking back, my decisions around teaching were just like asking someone what to do, and they were like, what are you good at? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I love sports and I love coaching. And they're like, okay, what else you good at? Okay, well, you're really good at math. So it just kind of became a thing where I wasn't really doing it out of any sort of greater plan or whatever. It was like, oh, well, most of the coaches I know are teachers, so I guess I'll just coach. That'll be my way into doing this and having some kind of fulfillment. So yeah, I ended up coaching, and that kept me sane for most of it. But I quickly started experimenting and developing side hustles and taking risks and starting little businesses, if you want to call them that. And those slowly steamrolled from, an eBay store to trying to find a way to take payments for landlords.
What did you sell on the eBay store? What were you selling on the eBay store? That's what I want to know.
Is your eBay store still active?
It's still.
Can we buy something from your eBay store?
It's still active. Truthfully, I should have stuck with it. This was when eBay was just starting to kind of take flight. And really it was more of just a scrappy mentality. It was like, well, what can I find to sell? And then quickly I realized the value of, instead of trading hours for dollars, like there was a way to multiply your efforts. Mm-hmm. So, my grandma was selling antiques. She had always sold antiques. So it was kind of like, hey, can I rummage through what you have and try to sell some stuff? And, of course she said, yes, I'm her grandson. Like she would do anything for me. And
you started selling your grandmother's furniture.
I wish I would have got some big bucks for that.
Out from underneath her.
Right. It became more about like, where are some things where there's like an arbitrage opportunity and I could buy something for lesser and sell it. And I remember there was, if you could imagine, there were ads in print at one point where, you could go to like Sears. Okay. I don't know if anyone remembers Sears, and buy a product. Well, they had this ad that they had put out in the Sunday paper, and they mispriced an item. And one of my friends who was working there, who shall go unnamed, told me about the fact that they had to honor this misprint. So I went. I
remember these things. Trust me, I remember that story. Yeah.
And I was like, yo, man, let's just go buy as many as we can. We'll use the eBay store. I'll sell them. So they would only let us buy like 5 each. So we ended up buying 10 of them. But it was, these are like the iterations that you go through, these weird little wins and strange things that evolve into something greater. So through that, I kind of worked up some courage and convinced my brother-in-law that he should help me design sports-themed T-shirts around Buffalo items. And we started a little T-shirt company called BuffaloSportsTees.com. And then I started to really learn about like profit and loss and, what it meant to go and sell and work with manufacturers and try to get distribution and eyeballs on what you were doing. So every step up, I took on a little bit more risk and got a little bit crazier and ended up parlaying that into buying some real estate, had some partnerships there. And the lessons I learned there were really around partnerships and what bad partnerships can be like, and what having a good time horizon and good goals and values that align really means to the success of an enterprise. And from there, it was like, okay, I've been kind of half-assing everything. And my graduating class they gave us an allowance of 5 years to have our master's before, even though I had tenure, in order to remain and keep that tenure forever, I had to finish my master's degree. I had only taken 2 courses and really could just tell that I was throwing money out the window, and I was doing it because I was like, I had to do it or I was supposed to do it. So I ended up deciding that it would be best if I just resigned. And this decision I made somewhere around Thanksgiving time, and I had to resign on February 1st if I was choosing to do that. So in this tunnel of 3 months, I ended up talking to a bunch of people and came up with the idea of starting a food truck, which at that time I had called a food van, based on my ignorance and limited knowledge of the subject.
What year was this, Pete?
This was 10 years ago. This was exactly 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was obsessed with just in the whole math of it. The idea of the model was really attractive to me. I swore up and down I would never get involved in the restaurant business. I'd seen plenty of people go through hell and back in that industry and watch families get torn apart and people work 80 hours a week and, get bags under their eyes real quick. So I didn't really want to get involved in an actual restaurant. And I just loved the model of the truck, being able to take it to the crowd instead of relying on the crowd coming to you. I just found that fascinating. And I was obsessed with the idea of just being first, just being number one. And to me, that was really important because I figured if I could break a market, I would have the advantage of like setting that market. And then if I needed to like ask for forgiveness later, I think people would be more inclined to do that because being the first comes with a lot of, you're going to make errors and whatnot, but people always remember the first. And to me, I thought that would be important.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So yeah.
And you use
that one truck and go ahead.
I just want to say you used the word obsessed a few times. And so especially in being the first and having that entrepreneurial mindset, that doesn't seem like an accident. So would you say that was required in order for you to get from A to B to C in the process?
Absolutely. I think that is a necessary function when starting something. If you don't have like steadfast conviction about it, you probably shouldn't do it. Like you're going to have times where you're questioning what you're doing, and that's only natural. But if what you're doing isn't something that you're moved by and there isn't a sense of urgency, then you're probably solving the wrong problem. So to me, that was really important. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, it's important.
And now,
so,
Pete, exactly. So keep going. Go for it. Yeah.
No, it's cool. I was just going to try to summarize real quick. So
perfect.
Yeah, that one truck and with the hurdles of being the first, we had to quote unquote battle City Hall to get legislation because there was no legislation written for trucks, and everything was really from the 30s, like the 1930s, around like hot dog carts and stuff. So we had to work with them to make it a viable business. Otherwise, what was kind of there was always going to be more of a hobby, and we would get shut down all the time because there was all this ambiguity around what was legal, what wasn't legal, and it left it to the whims of, whoever was on the phone or whoever was filing the complaint for that day. So even though we started the business thinking we'd be able to do all these great things, we actually, in practice, the business plan that we wrote had to kind of get torn apart, and we had to adapt very fast. So what we found that we could do legally without much pushback was serve lunch downtown at a fixed location. So that humble spot on what was Main and Mohawk, which is now Main and Eagle, a decrepit spot at the time, we were able to become a very efficient lunch wagon. And that building that following allowed us to get the community behind us when dealing with City Hall. And it was great because ultimately things worked out, and we fought for one of the best food truck legislations, I believe, in the entire country. So, and it's no secret now why there's 50-ish food trucks, give or take, in our region 10 years later. So I knew that we had to build a culture, and I'm happy that we were able to.
Great. Thanks for that, Pete. Question for you. Number one, what was your first job? Like when you were a kid?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, it was paperboy. So
Me too.
I'm gonna start there because that was really my first job, and I think that gave me a taste of if you work fast and hard, you can be rewarded. So at first I started delivering the papers by foot, like with the wagon or whatever.
And how old were you at this time?
I don't know, maybe 13,
Okay,
I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 14. And then I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I'm a hockey player and strapped on the rollerblades and got 2 of those side satchels, put one on each shoulder. And even though it probably weighed as much as I did, I just went and
you're like a paperboy hero.
Dude, I delivered them on rollerblades. And even though that meant I could only take, one bag at a time, like one, I had to go back to home base to pick up another load, but it was totally worth it. I had 10x my time, put in earphones, and rest is history. I think I was listening to like maybe Bone Thugs and Harmony or something.
Bone Thugs and Harmony, first of the month. Question for you, Pete. What do most people not know about starting a business? It's becoming cool to be an entrepreneur and start businesses, and everybody dreams. Not everybody, lots of people can dream about starting a business, but what's one thing that over your time that most people wouldn't know about starting a business?
Well, I'll try to answer this twofold. I think you should know up front that it's not easy. And anyone who tells you that it is easy, you should definitely run from that person as far as you possibly can, because it either means they're lying to you or they're trying to sell you something. And the second thing is that choosing your partner is possibly the second most, if not first most, depending on whether you're married or not, important decision that you'll ever make. You could have a great product, you could time the market right, but without a good partner or a good partnership, it eventually will unravel. There'll be cracks, even if sales are phenomenal, and sales cure all ills, for sure. But once there's a little bit of a challenge, you'll start to figure out really quickly what both people really want. So I would say, the partnership thing is absolutely the most important. And I think it's one that people are unaware of and they don't spend a lot of time on. I think you need to ultimately partner with someone who is some form of an optimist, like a rational optimist or something, and stay away from cynics and pessimists, because they will just suck your blood like an evil vampire. And you can't do that when you need the energy necessary to get going early on. Energy is everything early on, and you want to do everything you can to preserve that and multiply that. And I would say,
and you have a partner.
Yeah, I do.
Well, right?
And just to wrap that up, integrity, I think, is another component. If I had to boil it down to like 3 things, and integrity is a little bit harder to measure. It obviously involves trust, but it also involves an element of time. So I don't recommend anyone get into business with someone that they just met. I think you need to develop a relationship that could be, 12 months, 18 months, whatever. Maybe it's 6, depending on how fast you get to know each other, but that element of integrity has to be there. So yeah, I do have a partner in Lloyd. Chef Chris is my partner, and he.
And what do you admire the most
either
about
brave enough
Chef Chris?
What do I like the most about him?
Well, so you say partnerships is so important. So there's clearly some things about Chef Chris that you admire or you respect. Like what are those traits that you admire the most about him?
Absolutely. I think in answering the partnership question, you first need to identify if you need one and why. And my need of a partner in Lloyd was, although I can cook with the best of them and, grew up next to my mom and dad, like scooping sauce out and whatnot, I'm not formally trained. I'm not classically trained. And I knew that in order for us to be legitimate, I would need a partner in the culinary realm. And Chris, his background is, extraordinary with all the things that he's accomplished across the country with food. And I'm just happy that we were childhood friends, and he decided to move back to Buffalo. And, you know, at that time I was able to pitch him on this. And even though it took a long time to convince him, probably a good 3 months, and twisting of arms and getting people who were much more important than me to help twist those arms. You know, I'm happy that we did that, because my zest for life and opportunity and taking risk is then balanced by his, in some ways, opposite appetite for risk and just wanting to keep things orderly and, you know, recorded and logical. And so it's a good balance in that respect. So I needed that compliment.
That's a great, I love that point, Pete. And also that you each bring something different to the table that helps to create the full picture.
Yeah, I think what you're looking for, and I don't want to boil it down to like a perfect partnership, because there really isn't such a thing. The two main skills anyone needs necessary is the ability to sell and the ability to build. So if you could do those two things yourself, you're superhuman, and you're probably going to take on the world, and whatever endeavor you embark on, you're going to be successful. I think building something is this special knowledge that you get by tinkering and repeating. And sometimes it involves, you know, some kind of formal training, right? In Chris's case, being a chef, right? Like working on that tactical sort of repetitive stuff to get you to learn to build. It may be in coding, right? With computer, just going bonkers, working on programming. That is a form of building. And those things are usually, they take time to learn, and products come out of them. So a builder matched with someone who can sell is, you know, the ultimate dream team. Selling is a skill, though, that I believe is much easier to learn, and something that people can learn faster if they want to. And if the person who was a builder becomes a seller, then, you know, that's even better, because they have that content knowledge to be able to then sell the idea of something of which they were already doing. So
great.
I have to say, so Steve and I have been working together for a couple of years, and sometimes we have those conversations as well. And so I love what you're saying about the ability to sell and the ability to build. And the other cool thing I would imagine is you have someone to celebrate with, because it's not just you, but the two of you have done
and knock ideas around.
Yeah, and just to like have somebody to share all of it with, the celebration and the challenges.
100%. Yeah, and I mean, just I love to celebrate, and I think even though Chris doesn't like to celebrate as much as I do, it's been great to share that with somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree, for sure.
That's really great. That's really great advice. I love that. So shifting into a little bit more of like recent times here, Pete, can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing to support your employees and your team, especially during the last 7 months with the COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's a major shift, right? And when you enter a period of uncertainty, it's important that you turn all of your leadership skills up to like level 10. And the biggest one there being communication. Constantly communicating to people what's going on, keeping them informed, I think is paramount. And obviously the rest of it is kind of common sense. So in our field, obviously being in hospitality and working with food and a lot of people coming and going, safety is number one. So it's like ridiculous amounts of sanitizing and cleaning and like to the nth degree. So obviously that and people having, you know, PPP, we got everyone Lloyd masks at the beginning, which was great. So and then letting them know that it's okay to talk about stuff and making sure that they have resources available, not only through us, but through third parties, where if they're going through some challenging times, they can speak to someone about that if they don't feel comfortable speaking to us. So we found that to be very helpful, and just keeping that sense of team and unity, and the fact that like we're going to get out of this, and you know, we will survive. You know, it's like it's an opportunity to bond together. So yeah, I would say it's mostly common sense stuff, but we gave everyone who we were able to keep on a nice pay bump, to let them know in a bonus sort of way, like, thank you for being willing to stick it out with us, you know, and hopefully that meant something to them. And believe me, we would be doing even more of that if we could. And hopefully in the near future, we'll have the opportunity to do that again.
Great. Thanks, Pete. Now let's switch gears into yoga. So the three of us have all of this in common. And I don't know if I actually know the story of where you started yoga. And the two-part question of this is, how has yoga impacted you and affected you personally and professionally through your journey up until today?
Sure. I'll try to remember the question, the compound question, but where I started
I
out
can
yoga,
give it to you again. Don't worry. Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Where I started out in yoga was by accident. I had injured my back for the second time. And this time it was one of those kind of like down and out sort of things, where instead of being stuck on a cot for like a day, when it originally happened in a hockey game like 12 years ago or whenever it was like, I'm on a cot for like 3 days and I can't even go into work. So in seeing some different practitioners and trying to lean into, I was in the CrossFit community for a little while in Olympic weightlifting, and trying to lean on some of the people there that I knew who had really good PT people and really good non-invasive doctors, and, you know, people who were doing everything they can to avoid surgery. I went down that path and tried to rehab it, but it wasn't really getting better in a good way. So I had to stop playing hockey. I had to stop doing everything, stop lifting weights. I just started like walking and just walking regularly. And when you're a person who a part of your being is movement, and you identify yourself with movement, to have that taken away from you can really affect your psyche in a way. And I never had any clue of how much it could affect someone's psyche until I went through it in this way. And I think I was so messed up mentally that it was just like my one of my exes at the time was into yoga, and she had gotten her teacher certification, and she was more down the path of restorative yoga. And to me, I was just like, well, what's that? Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to sprint. I want to chase things. Like, she bugged me for like over a month. Just come to a class. Finally, I buckled and I went to a class, and it was the greatest thing I ever did. It was everything I needed. Just that time to sit and familiarize myself with my body again was awesome. And then that started to unlock some of the mental stuff I was going through. I went to another class like a month later, and then 3 months later I was like, you know, well, what other kind of yoga is there? And then I started doing yin yoga. And then, you know, a few months after that, I was like, well, what other kinds of yoga are there? And I was starting to move a little bit. I started playing hockey again. And my sister was like, have you ever heard of power yoga? And I was like, no. She's like, you should come to a class with me. And then I remember my first class. I will never forget my first class. I got my ass handed to me.
Who was teaching?
And I was like,
who taught?
What am I doing? What am I doing right now? She doesn't teach anymore. I think her name was Megan. You'll have to forgive me.
Yeah.
It was at the Main Street studio.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she was totally just like, you know, throwing us around. And I don't know, something clicked for me. Something clicked for me while I was there. I almost passed out. I couldn't tell if it was because of the euphoria or because like I was out of breath. But something magical happened, and I thought there is a complete world of strength and mental game that I'm unaware of, even though I'm an athlete and I've done all these things. And this is a sign that I need to explore this more. So I ended up coming back, and eventually, you know, I was like going every couple weeks, or got it up to once a week. And then I realized that every time I came back, it was still impossible. And then I used to practice martial arts, and we had like this little saying in the dojo that like, if you go 2 days without it, like you're going to be in pain. So I started to apply that thinking to yoga and would not let more than 48 hours go before taking another class, and found that my ligaments and tendons and everything were happier that way. So that's when it really turned on for me. And someone roped me into 40 days a few months later. And ever since my first 40 days practice, I think that was 6 months into practicing, 9 months into practicing, I, committed a big portion of my life to practice. And now I practice 6 days a week.
Great. And what role does that play for you personally and professionally each day?
Yes. That's the other part of your question. So I think it's about the idea of getting on your mat every day, and how you do anything is how you do everything. I think that's the saying. And just
Yes.
this no nonsense, blue collar, lunch pail sort of approach to yoga. And I'm getting on my mat, and I don't care what happens. I'm getting on my mat, and this is something that I do. And I've always had good like spatial awareness when it comes to moving my body, but I never really had good mental awareness. And to be able to connect those two things together has been awesome. And it's translated really well into my personal relationships, which obviously translate really well into my business relationships. It's made me a better leader. I had a terrible temper. I was very quick to react, and this has taught me to pause, and not only to pause, but to be empathetic in some way and think about what other people are going through. And not that that's an excuse, but just a whole sort of awakening, something that I had never really anticipated by getting into the practice. To me, practice was always physical. And then, something shifted where it was like a whole new world, like I said, was opened up. So, they're the obvious things. It's like being calmer. It's having a greater understanding. It's, caring about people more. It's all of those things too.
Great. Thanks, Pete.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you. How about any meditation, Pete? Do you have any of that in the mix there?
That's one area that I personally want to do a better job at being consistent with. So it's like, I'll get into the program, right? And I'll do the meditation during 40 days, or, maybe I'll get it for 4 out of the 6 weeks or something, or I might have a good home practice for a month or two. And then, I fall off the wagon. And I realize when I make it a part of my morning routine, then I'm successful with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've, everyone has their own story, but like, I can very easily end up in a procrastinating sort of cycle. And I think you have to find meditation. I don't want to say that works for you, but you got to try some different meditations to see what lands with you, what resonates with you.
100%. 100%.
Or you're going to avoid it. You're going to avoid it at all costs. And I think I'm still going through that experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can sure help you out if you need any help with that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to talk about meditation, you know where to go.
You know who to call.
All right. I love it. I'm going to take you guys up on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks so much for sharing all of that, Pete. And again, like, it's been so amazing to have you as a part of the Power Yoga Buffalo community. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully I'll end up, teaching at some point, whether it's in person or on the old Zoom, but
stay tuned.
Would love that.
Yeah,
little teaser right there. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So how about mentorship? So that's something that we heard that you're interested in doing more of. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think just that pivotal time for me, being a senior in college and going through all of that, flux, and not really having what I thought at the time was anyone to talk to about it. I think it hit me in a way that, like, if I could do that for someone, that would be really rad if it helped them out. And I think especially in the world of business, there's just you don't know what's going on. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And if I can help someone avoid some of the common pitfalls or mistakes or learning curve, accelerate the learning curve for them, I would love the opportunity to do that. I've been working with a couple young kids, a couple bright young kids who are entrepreneurial and looking to get started in their own way. Some of them have already started businesses, and if I could provide any perspective or help in some way, whether that's through eventually being a board member for them or just being someone that they can pick up the phone and call or go grab a cup of coffee with, I want to do that. I've helped people more formally in ways where, we meet once a month and have a 4-hour session at the whiteboard and really crank through some stuff that they want to get through, whether it's sales and marketing thing or a product thing or a customers thing. I'm always happy to help, but really I want to be in the spirit of giving back. And any way that I could do that and help the ecosystem grow and help Buffalo win, and make our community stronger is really what I want to do. And I just love that energy. I love that, when people are getting started with a new idea and, what with the excitement that they have around it, it's contagious.
If you had to choose one business book, I know you said back before when you were finishing up college, you were reading some books, and that seemed like that started your wheels turning. If you could suggest one book for entrepreneurs or people that are thinking about that, do you have like a go-to or something that really inspired you or you feel is really value added there?
Yeah, I mean, I read a ton, and first of all, I encourage anybody to, you got to find a way to, I don't want to say get smarter, like that's the wrong way of saying it. I don't have the right words for it, but like,
wisdom.
You got to be doing something.
Wisdom.
Right. You got to be doing something on the daily or on the weekly at the very least that's getting you to like expand your mind or be sharper. I think some modality of learning is got to fit in that bucket somewhere. And for some people that's reading. I think just learn to find something that you love to read. You could read junk, you could read whatever, but then that reading is going to then translate, that love for reading is going to then translate into you reading things that are more applicable to your goals or your values or whatnot. And if it's not reading, I tell some kids this all the time, like if it's not reading, then let it be YouTube or podcasts or listening to speakers or whatever the case. Like, got to find a way to digest information. And I guess if it had to be a book, if I was just like, again, at that pivotal age, like 20-ish, it's an old book, but I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great book. It covers a lot of the basics. Another book that was really impactful for me early on was The 4-Hour Workweek. Again, super old, by Tim Ferriss. Robert Kiyosaki on the first one and Tim Ferriss on the second. And those aren't like whiz bang books, right? Like, I'm not telling you the latest and greatest business book that's out there. Like, sometimes that stuff's relevant and sometimes it isn't, but I think setting the foundation first is where you should go. And yeah, I think those are probably what I would do. You guys caught me off guard with that one.
It's good. It's good.
Suggestions.
But I think just like along the lines of that, like, find some people, find some heroes, find some folks that you can look up to, and try a few different ones out and see who resonates with you. And
yeah, and those books lead to other books, and you find out more. It's like you start, and exactly. Then it starts to go. Yeah, perfect. Pete, where can people find Lloyd's right now? And then I know you guys do special events, and the trucks go to different places. Like, what are some special events that you do or can do, or people might not know that they can use Lloyd's for?
Yeah, totally. So the trucks are still open. We're running a lighter truck schedule. Just because some of the offices are closed and whatnot, so that impacts our routine. I think the biggest thing people don't know that we do is cater. Cater with the truck, but also cater without the truck. So we can come and drop off a pretty spread of 150 burritos with all the fixins, or, we could set up a taco bar for 15 of, your favorite people. And if you want to get, real crazy and show off and bring the truck, or you got like something you want to celebrate, we can do that as well. So yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that we cater, and that we can cater with the truck or without the truck. Both taco factories are open, one on Hurdle in North Buffalo and one on Main Street in Williamsville. And Churn's open for ice cream still, and we're going to hang in there until the bitter cold of the winter. So, don't hesitate to add an ice cream sandwich to your DoorDash order when you're getting your food from Lloyd next time. But we have plans in the near future to open the dining room here before the weather turns. So stay tuned for that.
Great. Thanks,
Steve.
Pete.
And then, find me. I mean, you can email me, pete@where'sloyd.com, or you can send us a message through any of the social channels, and eventually it'll get back to me. And I'm admittedly not the best with email, so if I miss that first one, please send me another one. It's you're not a bother in any way. It's just sometimes it's a black hole.
Got it. So pete@where'sloyd.com.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so really quickly, Pete.
Or LinkedIn. I guess LinkedIn.
Or LinkedIn?
Too. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Does anyone get to drive the truck? If you rent the truck, do you get to drive the truck? Like, if you get it for an event? Just got to ask.
I'll tell you what, if you're brave enough to drive the truck, I'll get in the truck and drive the truck with you. Yeah.
I mean,
I'll give anyone that
I drive a pretty big car already, so I feel like maybe I could handle it.
Okay, cool.
I'm up for trying.
That's fun.
You heard it. You heard it first.
I'm ready.
And also, just really quickly, in a few seconds, what is Lloyd? For anybody that doesn't know or just is dying to know, what's Lloyd and where is he?
What is Lloyd? Where is Lloyd? Who?
Well, right.
Lloyd?
Where first off, and also, where did the hashtag "Where's Lloyd" come from, too?
Yeah, that's that is the $1 million question, right?
If you're allowed to say.
Happened,
if you're allowed to say.
I will. I'll give you guys the truth. I'll give you guys the truth here on.
Okay.
I'll give YouTube
Jen,
the truth.
can you handle the truth?
Okay. I totally can.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Part of it was incidental. I was tasked with naming the business, and all I knew was that I wanted to think of it like a boat, right? Like a boat deserves a proper name. Although I don't own a boat, at least not yet. A boat deserves a proper name, right? We got to name the truck. So from that, I figured maybe it should be a person's name, and just wrote out a feverish list of like 100 different things. And I narrowed it down to my 10 favorite. And I went to my sister, who I could trust, and she's kind of a marketing ace. And I was so proud. I was like, hey, look at it. I got it. And she literally crumbled up the list and was like, how about Lloyd? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And she's like, yes, that's exactly why you need to do it. And then you can tell a story around it. And very quickly during that brainstorm with her, I went down a path of where's Waldo, because people had to find the truck. And that turned into where's Lloyd. And we were able to build the persona of Lloyd. And that was important because Lloyd's way cooler than Pete and Chris's taco wagon or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like the brand you really did such a great job, because the brand does have its own persona and like cool identity. And I love that she just like crossed off the whole list and just, dropped that. That's
Jen's
so
fired up that she did that too as well.
I do love that. Steve knows well. I'm like, like
awesome.
Came up with it. I love it.
That's like the Nike story of how they got the name for Nike, which is a student at the university that just came in, and that's how how Nike started. Similar.
Yeah, and to think about how that means something much greater now. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think just it's fun. I mean, I know we didn't really get into like building a brand or anything like that, but story is important, and it has to be authentic. And if you're doing something that's not really you, people are going to find out and snuff it out, and customers won't want to associate with that. So we just like to have fun with it. I mean, for us, it was like a quirky thing, and that's really in alignment with my personality and Chris's. And we like to think that Lloyd is the second most interesting man in the whole world, and we want to keep it that way. And there's an element of enigma and mystery to it. And yeah.
It's great.
I like it.
Love it.
That could be a Halloween costume. Lloyd Halloween costume.
Because like, what does he look like?
We've seen people dress up as the truck for Halloween, and that's pretty great.
Yeah, that is
That's
great.
great.
We've seen people put their dogs in like a cardboard taco truck too. So
Oh my gosh.
that's fun.
That is great.
Awesome.
But
Good.
yeah, at this point, it's almost like, I don't think anyone's gonna ever get to meet Lloyd, and that's probably a good thing. So we always tell people he's off like backpacking in Indonesia or something. He's going to the mountain to meditate.
Yeah, like it. Well, Pete, is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you would love to share with people or put out there?
Not really. If you guys think of anything and need to follow on to this, let me know.
Thank you.
I mean, really, the only thing that I would say is that we're indebted to the city of Buffalo and the greater Western New York area. The people who patronize Lloyd are the most loyal people. It's unreal how lucky we are, and I just want to keep giving back to them. So we're grateful for that, and we're happy that we've been able to build what we've been able to build in this short period of time.
Yeah, you've done an incredible job. Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, and thanks
Thanks,
for
man.
all you do in our community too, Pete. Whether it's donating food and showing up and supporting and just being so positive in the space and giving back.
Thanks, Jen.
Welcome. All right, now, Steve, you want to handle the 3 rapid fire questions here?
No, you handle the last question.
I'm going to handle the last question. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Pete, totally off the cuff,
Okay.
3 rapid fire questions. One thing that makes you laugh, one thing that makes you cry, and one thing that inspires you.
Oh my God, one thing that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Laugh, cry, inspire.
Laugh, cry, inspire.
Inspired. Yeah, don't think too hard.
I'm
Go for
so
it.
bad. I know I'm so bad on the spot. When you said laugh, I was just going to say Arrested Development or Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Great.
Perfect.
Next
Great.
question.
One down. What makes you cry?
What makes me cry? Oh my goodness. At any time I think about at any of my former canine companions.
Love it.
Yeah.
And what inspires you?
What inspires me? Creating, just creating anything and everything, just living in a world of possibility. Yeah.
Perfect.
Great. Well,
You
thank
did
you,
great
Pete.
on that.
Well,
All
we
right.
want to acknowledge you, Pete, for all of your presence in Western New York. Like Jen says, who you are to the yoga community, the Western New York community, and what you've also created and started in Buffalo. I mean, we all talk about, the next Buffalo, the Buffalo that's growing, and you've had such a huge contribution to making our city grow and continue to strive forward. So we appreciate all that you are and who you are.
Thanks, man. Thank you. You're gonna make me blush. Right through the beard.
That's it.
Thanks for your time today, Pete. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, wait, we got to get a quick photo here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Got it. Okay, recording paused.